Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 30th episode of DevKami. I'm Chi Leong.
I am Tristan.
And I'm swimming. So, as
Oh,
usual, we have a few things that we need to talk about. How many episodes is this again? I forget.
30. 30.
Whoa. Okay.
happy
The milestone
30th.
for us.
Thank
Some
you.
middle-aged podcast.
Uh,
Yeah. We still podcast and people call actually 30s will be the age where usually people have quarter age crisis, quarter life crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So let's see what we have for the whole week. So on
a lot happening next.
devkami.com/meetups.
Friday, yep, you can see it on defcom.com/meetups. So we have 3 days of codes for undergraduate student. So if it happens to be a student, join them. It will be happening in MMU, IT Society
I think it's probably
in
too late to
Cyberjaya.
register now, but do check them out. Try
Yeah,
them
yeah,
out.
yeah. It's a undergrad thing. So yeah, it's tomorrow. Then on Tuesday, we have Junior Dev Malaysia, tentatively at Hall of Awesomeness. I'm not sure about that because there might change of venue.
Yeah, so Hall of Awesomeness is getting renovated. So it depends it if it's still available, then it happens there. If it's not available anymore, then watch the Facebook page
Yep.
of Junior Dev My.
Okay, so what's the next event then?
And on Wednesday, it is JavaScript Wednesday.
It is at Money Lion.
Yeah.
At Lion Q Central. So it's a Q Central. It's literally beside the building is literally beside the museum's MRT station. Just go up number. I don't remember which floor, but I work there. If
Mm-hmm.
we are early, I might bring you to the 34th floor,
Yeah, we get to visit
the garden.
Swimming's workplace.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for the whole week. Anything else that I forget?
Okay.
That is it. I think next week we can talk about whatever's happening on next week. Well,
Yep.
next week Saturday is Indie Hack, but it's not on the calendar yet. So
No.
I'll ask Axel to put
Correct.
this up on here.
So let's talk about our bus corner.
Yeah, what do we have?
What do we have?
Our productivity. Oh, so we had a Stack Overflow developer survey.
Ah, yeah. What's up?
So let's see. I didn't actually read the report.
There's a
Python is
zero.
still there.
Yeah,
Python
and
is
there's
like,
a 0.66% of uh, Malaysian answered the survey.
Yep.
mm-hmm.
And I'm one of them. I hope you guys did it as well.
No, I don't. I believe it or
Uh,
not, the number of time I visited Stack Overflow is miserable. I
no, I
only
think I no I actually seldom use that nowadays. But
yeah
Mm-hmm.
I think it the survey form was at Hackers News or some other
yeah
website.
yeah. I kind of forget about that.
So
So
Stack Overflow usually comes up on Google searches, but I haven't used Stack Overflow for questions in quite some time.
yeah, mostly people already ask the question that I want to know.
Yeah,
So the
correct.
thing that is more interesting to me
Mm-hmm.
is what's the most popular programming language.
What is the most popular programming language?
Unfortunately, it's JavaScript, but I think it's cool. JavaScript is nice. It's not a bad language. HTML and CSS reasonable. CSS had been it's not the easiest thing to understand. SQL, SQL,
Yeah,
and Python, which is fascinating.
still the
Python is
rising
there.
star.
Yeah. So this is so the thing about the question here is I do not understand how they measure it because if I'm gonna look at Stack Overflow, then it's about whether most language need help, right?
Mm-hmm.
It means that whether this language have problem, but it also correlate somewhat
Also,
with how
how well documented a language is.
yes, and correlate with how many people use the language. So
How do they measure how many
I
people use the
think it's a
language?
signaling. Huh?
How do they measure?
It's roughly correlate to that. in this case, number of question. I do not know, which is why it's important to know their methodology,
Yep, yep.
which they already say actually. Based on survey. Oh, it's actually a survey. It's not based on question.
Yep.
Mm.
So okay, so the JavaScript is the most popular language, common, and you can't run away from CSS JavaScript.
Yep.
Then you have number three is SQL. Then the next is Python. Interesting. Then you have Java.
Usual.
Then Bash, C Sharp, PHP, C++, and go all the way down. Go is number I lost count, but look at the
Ruby
report. It's really interesting.
Ruby is never on the top 10 now. I wonder why.
Okay. I believe the tools is established enough that you can search and find it. If you want to look at high, then unfortunately it's not the high language right now. But
It's
on the
still
other
very
hand,
widely used in a lot of essentials
correct,
projects.
correct. It's still one
S-
of the big language. So which is
So
why I say
maybe so maybe the people who use Ruby just doesn't use Stack Overflow anymore
Yeah.
maybe, but
or
it's
doesn't answer the survey.
yeah, which is I think interesting, but it is what it is. But Ruby is used in many places. Cucumber infrastructure, you use Puppet, you use Ruby. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's at the
So
top.
also, if you look at the list, it's also weird because Swift is only 6.6% of all respondents, and Swift is used quite heavily in iOS development.
Mhm.
So
But
which is why I think the number is a bit weird.
this is a survey result, which is not what the amount of questions asked on Stack Overflow.
Yeah, correct. So if based on survey question, I find it also weird because Swift actually
You know VBA is on the list as well.
so that's why I'm a bit
VB,
yeah,
Visual Basic.
VBA.
precisely. All right, I think we should move a bit faster. Our productivity goes up on what is it?
On one of
Uh, on one of the week last week because Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp have been down.
on 13, I think it's 13.
Yeah, so our
It's more like
productivity goes
it's
up.
yeah 13. So they went down for 2 hours
What
and
what what
productivity were up.
what was the post mortem on the thing?
I didn't
Mhm.
follow
Like
up actually.
why did it go down?
I don't know yet.
Oh, they still haven't given any news on why the
Uh,
biggest services went down.
Caused a bug in our server.
Huh.
mhm.
Okay.
All right, so the
It's
next thing
still
that is
so what else? What else do we
I'm
have?
not sure. I'm going to the Buzz Corner. I think we have the Python stack on the browser by Mozilla.
yeah. So the reason I
Pyodide.
Mm.
uh IOTA is another way they want to build
No, it's
application
actually
languages.
yeah, it's actually came from iodide. So
So it's
Mm.
meant to use another language other than JavaScript to build web application, from what I understand. So yeah, I think it's interesting because I'm a Python fanboy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting, and also this is interesting because
since because for this episode we have a bit more time for more questions. Do you think I mean just an opinion? Do you think Python will bear the same brand as JavaScript if it's very commonly used on the browser?
Well, I think
not
well
yet, not
if
yet.
Chrome and Mozilla has a parser, right? Like a built-in parser like V8 for example on the browser, then yeah. So this was actually the same thing that Google wanted to happen for Dart. So they
Yep.
had a build of Chrome that had a Dart parser as part of it. And so they wanted to do it like as a A/B test. One would be Dart compiled to JavaScript, which was
Hmm.
how things are, and one build of Chrome that had Dart uh, as a parser, like V8 is for JavaScript. But a lot of people didn't like it. It never took off, and so that's the state of Dart. Now Dart finds it has a life of its own in Flutter as a
Hmm.
compiler. But if Python had a parser or a compiler on the browser itself, then that might be a
You
powerful
know,
thing.
also, do you know for the background? Do you know how it's powered?
Is what,
Uh,
sorry?
how this is made possible with?
What is
It's
made
actually
possible?
for Python to run on the browser. It's actually not a dedicated runtime. It's
Yeah.
actually powered by WebAssembly. So
Mm-hmm.
it means that
They built a compiler.
yeah, people will try. I think gradually, WebAssembly, even though with all the overheads and stuff, but gradually it liberates the runtime on the web.
Yeah,
So
so it becomes like the next Java.
yeah,
Write
No,
once,
that
run
the
everywhere.
JVM,
JVM,
the
JVM,
JVM.
not Java.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's that Java is the language, but the how JVM became popular was because Java was written for the JVM, and then everyone thought, okay, let's it's all bytecode, and
Right.
then they just targeted the JVM. So yeah, WebAssembly
So for
is
this one,
well, the browser is JVM.
correct.
WebAssembly is the first language that like takes advantage
Yeah,
of all of these bytecode, and then everyone trans like WebAssembly is like your common denominator for everything,
yeah.
and all languages will target that. I think Rust has a compiler for WebAssembly already, right?
Correct.
They're starting to do this.
That's the first language actually.
Yeah, to
To
actually
focus on that.
target
Yeah.
WebAssembly.
Correct.
Um,
This
Go
one is
apparently
interesting
has one as
because
well.
The
the
Python.
Python guys had their charting tools and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So this make charting easier without having to write D3 tool.
The caveats is actually PyIodide. Actually, the size of the runtime is 50 meg.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, but then you cache it on the browser, right? Like you cache it on local storage, so it's the
yep.
initial download, like
The
just like an application, and
the
um,
goal of assembly is supposed to leverage the advantage of HTTP2 as well. So if
mm-hmm,
you stream over instead of a block, you have to wait for a block of big downloads.
mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think this is interesting as I want to see more language
Yeah.
because Python is not the only language for data
What would you
visualization.
like to see? What sort of runtime language runtime you would like to see?
Yeah.
We have one on for Ruby, but it's not for WebAssembly. So it's Opal, and it's the Ruby language that gets transpiled into JavaScript, and JavaScript is the one that runs there. So it's a bit slower, but
Hmm.
because we have like specs for Ruby, it is passing a lot of the specs for the reference implementation of Ruby. So
Yeah.
that's how Ruby does it.
So it just turns out that nobody really thinks a good idea to do Python on JavaScript directly. So nobody really bought. There is a few project, but there's not serious project that pick up because it just JavaScript is a fine language and we can interface to it. But this one is interesting because they decide to go ahead with it. So okay, I think that's cool, right? Uh, to me, you know what would be interesting to see R,
R on the browser, like,
because
uh,
their visualization language is awesome.
mm-hmm.
The way they design the charts and all that is brilliant.
So you think R that targets the canvas would be a
Yeah,
big
yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Python can do it, but I prefer our style of data visualization,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird because people think I'm a Python guy, but I really like R when it comes to data analysis. It's not fast for production, but it's natural if want to execute data.
So
So
it's
that's my thing.
R is good for something like trial and error, or like trying to see a quick visualization of what the data is without really knowing. So it's more of data exploration rather than
Yeah, correct.
running production jobs on a batch and very, very fast.
Yes.
I
But what
see.
happened is New York Times and all that, they use R to produce the chart that's interactive, that is usable.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't do it interactively. In some case, like for example, New York Times and all that, they use R
Mm-hmm.
without actually doing that. But that said, I think we should move on because it
Mm-hmm.
will go really far.
Yeah.
What else
Because
do we have?
this point of today is a bit more relaxed.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, so yeah, so
we have our own projects that
Yeah.
we're doing.
Yeah.
correct.
So yeah, we're going to talk about that. The title for today is off work activity. So
Yes.
I want to like distinguish between I've titled distinguish between what we normally do versus what we do at our own time. So yeah, what do you
Yep.
do? Swimming.
So I'm learning weird technology. Uh, so there's actually two part. I'm going to start with part one. Uh, the data set. I've been telling people about the Quay dataset project. I'm learning deep learning. I've been learning deep learning since forever, right? So I buy books and all that. I decided that to learn that because I need a project.
Wait,
Uh,
wait. Why
so
do you have to have a project to learn something?
okay, so it's my belief, right? It's my belief. Each of us. Okay, I need to put it in some story. Okay, so the thing about going to classes is uh, to learn, you need to find a topic to study. How the course online or whatnot works is that you say go to this direction to do that, and in between you will face hurdle. Then you have to solve the hurdle and do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that might work. Problem, you don't really care about. You do not really care about the direction. For example, I want to believe, in this case, I really want to believe that learning is can be worked as well as a courses if we think of it as an adventure. Uh, so self-directed learning. So why I say that, like formal learning, we will actually have hurdle. So we go each of it like a small RPG. We find the bosses, so we figure our way around it. We go and gather material. In this case, we gather knowledge. So, for example, for the Quay project for deep learning, so what's the hurdle? First hurdle, collect Quay. What's the second hurdle? Understanding what is needed for neural
Mm-hmm.
network. Then in between that, then another hurdle is we need to resize the photo into something that is usable. Then we need to split. Do we have enough to split? Do we whatnot, right? Uh, I like to learn in a way that in a project it'll be like a mini boss or mini bosses because each of the project is a little hurdle and each of the hurdle got us to learn.
So it's like
But
a
here's the
mini
thing,
game now. It's a game in while doing your life.
correct. Courses can do that, but sometimes you don't really. They send you to a quest that you don't really care about. You get a analogy?
Yep, it's like a small arc in the game, and then it's a boss at the end of the level. Let's say.
Uh, so a project style learning to me is it's an open world
Mm.
game. And like an open world game, there is a caveat. Open world game have a tendency to make you lost.
Yes, that is a
Uh,
big problem with open world games.
project directed learning also had a tendency to bring you lost by bring you to the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, this is something that we need to be aware about. But I believe that having a project-based learning like this is more interesting for me. It will be make it easier for me to learn. But that is my style, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for my style, I want to collect kueh and white kueh. So it's part funny because it's Malaysian food, but Malaysian kueh is had many varieties. So we can have uh, the variety means we can have multi-classes classification. It have colors, it have shapes. So those are patterns can be used for convolutional neural network. Some kueh looks the same in a way, but very different. The texture is different. Each of it are features that can be used. I think it's a
So
cool experiment.
even though Malaysia is a very small country, but different people from different region call it differently,
Yes,
and we always argue about this is supposed to call what.
correct. So it's a challenge on learning data labeling. Uh, it's a thing to learn about labeling. It's a thing about data collection, etc. Like what's the minimum amount of grade I need to identify one grade? For example, can I scrape it? Maybe I should scrape it. So to me, the Quay project is interesting for deep learning because I think this is unique enough for people to play around, and it's interesting enough for doing deep learning. And it's not yet another. Do you know what is MNIST?
No idea.
The MNIST dataset is very famous for handwriting recognition.
Mm.
That and it's used to that. Okay, it's used in deep learning courses to that. So everybody will come with the same solution. We're using the same few layer of uh, convolutional neural network, which you can just keep using. Copy the code is the same. It's not
So
that
this
different, and you will get 90
is this
plus
date is this data set like
percent
standardized? Like everyone has the same access to it? Yeah.
MNIST.
Mm.
Yes, major library included. And then
Okay.
there's this new one called Fashion MNIST. Uh, it's not done by the National Institute of Science, but standards. But the fashion one is a collection of photos of fashion, clothing, and all that, which you can use. So this is a new hot standard data set. I'm going to explain what is a standardized data set later. So this standard data set can be used to so that you can use it for identify clothing that you wear if you put on a photo. So so the thing is, using all this standard data set means if it's very new, then it's fun. So then it's you have the novelty of learning neural networks to build things, classify things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if everybody already do the handwriting identification, I think that's pretty much. Uh, I think you don't take the surprise out of your learning. You understand me? Especially if the data handwriting data set is like a standard thing. It's
Yeah.
standardized.
So you
It's the same
use
data
something
set.
that is there. You want to
So you're
just have
just
fun.
Correct.
yeah, redoing the same thing over and over that other people has done.
Correct. Correct. I think doing our own project add a little more hurdle that force us to learn, and I think that's interesting.
And so it's like you're going into the unknown and you don't know whether you will succeed or you'll fail.
Correct. Because if you look at different book neural network, it's the same design and all that roughly. So that's that lah.
Yeah.
That's
So
my project now.
swimming is a seeker,
Yeah,
thrill
intellectually.
seeking, yeah, intellectual thrill seeker who
Yeah,
does not
I
know whether he
He's a
will
person.
succeed or fail.
He's a very avant-garde person.
so yeah, I'm afraid of height. So for example, so I'm really afraid of many things. So but when it comes to intellectual stuff, I don't have fear, lah, so I'll play
So you
around.
can flex your intellectual muscle.
Yeah.
Yep. So now, so
One thing I really want to
your
help
project after hours would be the Quay project. So people
and the Haze Watch,
and
of course,
Haze
but let's
Watch.
talk about Quay for now.
So that means you get different pictures of Quay. You
Yep.
build that neural convolutional network to
Yeah.
identify and classify Quay
Yep.
into Quay or not Quay.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it
yeah,
for
yeah.
now. It's a Quay
You
or
know
not
what?
Quay.
That's a great idea. Maybe we might have enough for that, but one step at a time. Maybe
Mm.
I should do that first because currently I have like only 50 plus photo. It's not a lot to do data classification for now.
Hmm. So maybe in like as a data gathering tool, you can start a website called Quay or not, and
Yeah, 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 yeah. So maybe I need to do that because
yeah.
I intend for that to be usable for everyone. Maybe not on the standard of MNIST or fashion MNIST, but it's something for people to play around.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody decided that the number of query that we have is enough to make this query does not exist.com.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to challenge people to actually make those query. So random idea I have right now.
Nice.
What do you do, Tristan?
So yeah, I will share the link. I will share the query dataset link is currently live on OneDrive because
Yeah,
why OneDrive?
free
One
as
of the
well.
guy that heard about my project, he created a Microsoft OneDrive directory to upload stuff. So I just use it lah.
Use
So I
free
just
to help swimming out.
oh yeah, help us because it will be fun.
Okay.
Because even if the whole thing fail, you get some kueh to eat. So,
Yeah. For the quick, wow, that's a lot.
huh?
Great. That's not bad.
That's a lot of what?
I mean the amount of pictures.
Yeah.
Are those all Quay pictures?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I did not plan to do a kueh or not kueh yet,
Fun
but you
fact,
give me a good idea.
looking at one of the directory, it's called
Yeah.
Ang in Hokkien means red white, but you
Yeah.
have a white version of red kui.
Yeah. It sounds right. Did you why I say all these things are learning, a little bit of learning, because I do not know whether it's correct. That's the little hurdle, right? And remember, I said that this thing is essentially open world adventure and get lost. That data might be one of those things that get lost. Now I so they say, well, I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe not. So let's figure together along the way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you mentioned the Haze Watch as well.
If not interesting, if not interested, at least you got something to eat.
Yeah, you mentioned Haze
Yeah.
Watch as well.
Oh yeah, his watch. His watch. You keep Tristan. We have two versions down here. Uh, so you already know the sensor. You already know
Yep.
the software. One thing I've been learning extra because I think this year PyCon I might talk about MicroPython.
Mm.
It's
So,
a Python.
maybe you can talk about like how is MicroPython different from Python aside from just like it's a slimmed down version without the standard library. Like,
Uh,
why would you strip away the standard library? It's so useful.
yes, but these guys. Okay, so I don't have. I have a device with me, but the internet is horrible in my room. But microcontroller devices are not. They are targeting any MicroPython are used on devices from 16 megabyte of RAM
Mm-hmm.
to ESP32 can up to 32 megabyte of RAM. It's not very big, believe it or not. And it's only for one thing at a time. Microcontrollers are very good for doing one thing at a time. Uh, let me let me pull out the spec for ESP32 first. So the ESP32 have it's important because so without all the extra thing they add, uh, ESP32 can support up to 64 megabyte of flash RAM, right? It's very small compared to your Raspberry Pi. But the thing is, the type of application this thing use, are for device that do one thing and one thing only. So why MicroPython should aware all the thing because they do not need threading.
Mm-hmm.
Microcontroller on a microcontroller device, you need things to be predictable, and threads concurrency is doesn't make things predictable. Do you agree?
Yep. So that means MicroPython is great for use cases when you want to run it in a microcontroller
Correct.
versus on a single board computer, for example.
Correct. And why target a microcontroller when a single board computer
Yeah.
exists, right?
Why not? What? Yeah. Why would you
Short
do that?
answer is a lot of the device are you need good reliability. So a good example that I really like is you need internet connected light bulb. Okay. Uh, for the internet connected light bulb, it's a very you need it to go up when there's network network connection to go up and down, and this is the only two thing, right? As a
Mm-hmm.
result, you do not need to install Nginx controlled by System D, managed by a Linux kernel on real time to control the GPIO. To
Mm-hmm.
do that, so you have four components, and each component can crash on a Linux system.
Yeah, so if you have a full operating system running on single board computer, because
Yes,
there are so many moving parts, so to
yes,
say, there's so
yes,
many things that can go wrong.
correct.
And
But that
also
the
way, also things like floating point is not might not be working the same.
correct.
Might be
That's the hardware level thing, but
might be different Indian as well.
Yeah. So for example, I'm going to attend System D again. System D known to crash, right? And the crash
Haven't
horror
haven't for me so far. I'm lucky, I guess.
I know a few people crash, but it didn't happen to me because I use Ubuntu and because I'm lazy. But it's known to crash, right? A lot of this application you need something that you can debug predictably. So, and even though I use the example light bulb, a microcontroller device may be used on your uh, airbag controller,
Mm-hmm.
your auto braking system. Each of it will need reliability, and you do not want and you need a real-time operating system that do very limited thing to be that reliable for you to actually function.
Okay, so
Would you see?
MicroPython and microcontroller, how is this related to Haze Watch? Because Nazrol from chat is asking.
Now, I'll go too far already. The short answer is the initial implementation. The initial implementation for Haze Watch sensor is that I use a micro Python based board, the M5 stack. Do you think I should bring up my video now?
You can try.
Yeah, I
Hopefully it
hope.
doesn't kill your internet.
Yeah, my internet is fine, but I just wrong place. So this thing here is very package. Let me bring up the sensor. So this thing here is the M5 stack.
Mm-hmm.
Is it clear?
Yep.
Okay, so this thing is programmed by default can be programmed in MicroPython, and the way they parse it and whatnot means I can literally. Okay, the short answer is I can just plug in the two things. Uh, so by this alone, this is already for the. I need to change the app.
Okay.
Give me a
I
moment. So,
just to explain a bit
so
the reason behind Haze Watch while you're setting up is that
yeah,
the official source for the A is not actually API, it's a AQI, Air Quality Index. It's not
yeah.
accurate. It's not that it's faulty because the placement of the sensor might not be as what you call it, comprehensive, as not as wide as we
Not
want it to be.
optimal. Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
and a lot of time we get the reading doesn't reflect what we see outside of the window. So
Okay, so this unit is M5. It use ESP32, and by default, it have MicroPython on it. So of course, I use MicroPython, and I use MicroPython to write code to directly connect to the environmental sensor. This is the Honeywell the reason. So this is the easiest way to install the network sensor right now. You
Mm-hmm.
just need a public dashboard for people to see the data and some improvement on sleep and whatnot. So what's the relationship between MicroPython and the Haze Watch? Haze Watch initial implementation is using MicroPython to talk to the device because this unit down here by default runs on MicroPython, and this unit down here are the device that can have access to the internet. So this thing can connect to Wi-Fi to upload data, and this sensor don't have. So this serves as a bridge, and this
So
bridge,
it's a microcontroller that runs MicroPython.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
correct. So of course I can do it with Arduino, but I decide against it because they already had a design firmware. I don't want to replace it. Short reason why I use MicroPython versus let's say Arduino. So yeah, we can also do it on the Raspberry Pi, as Tristan said, plan to do, and it will even be cheaper, but it's not how I would say it.
It's not plug
These
and
have
play.
some assembly that one have more assembly needed.
Yeah.
So my big general goal for Haze Watch is something a no easy enough deployment so that
yeah,
people that is not tech person can deploy it and help out. We'll try to make it as easy as possible. I understand that people can only go easy up until a level, but our goal should make it as easy as possible.
It's
So
mainly
that's
for mainly for people. It's a recipe. Supposed the end goal is
mhm,
supposed to be a recipe where everybody just buy the stuff and hook on to probably one of the
Yeah.
service that we will provide something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then just feed data, and we're gonna provide some of the visualization
Yeah,
and
and
mhm,
hopefully,
it's an open data initiative,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
multiple
correct,
implementations, but they're all like working together.
yeah,
correct. So I hope to have a cheaper deployment, even easier deployment. So I'm open up for idea. So the MicroPython design is one example. Raspberry Pi one, I'm looking forward to it because it's more accessible to more people. As in, you can buy it here. So that's the reason to use a Raspberry Pi Zero, even though more assembly is required. So that's Haze Watch. What really helpful for Haze Watch is uh, if somebody can make it even cheaper than the Raspberry Pi version, awesome. Then maybe we can help build dashboard uh, so that people can see the result. Because if people can't see result, the whole project is moved. I can do it, but I need okay. So truth be said, I had a freelance. I did a freelance job on something similar, uh, but I need to double check with the owner of the project whether they're okay with them, comfortable with me working on that. They most probably will, but it's nice to ask.
yeah.
Which is why I
Documentation.
don't, which is why I can't just use that code to deploy it, and why it takes so long to get a public dashboard. So that's a confession I have to say why it takes so long to build a public dashboard lah. So yeah, that's Haze Watch and my Quay project.
Yeah. So my
So
project is similar to, well,
can
it is
but
from the Haze Watch project by
no,
Swimming.
correct.
That's because he initially, like a month ago, he mentioned about this project that he's trying to do,
Yeah,
and that, okay, yeah, you have an M5 stack and you have your Honeywell sensor, it's all working, but
yeah.
I want it's the same reason behind behind the project by Swimming, that I also wanted to challenge myself. I've been doing a lot of software, but the hardware side is something that I've tried a few years ago, like many years ago, but I haven't been doing recently. And so after many years, I was talking to Swimming. I was telling Swimming, like, was it yesterday or 2 days before? 2 days
Yeah.
ago after DevOps, during our Makan session after the talk, is that after a long time, I've started soldering again, and I can feel that I'm not in the same skill level as before. My hands are shaking, and I needed like the third hand thing with the clips, just so that um, I can solder properly. So it's a skill that I wanted to get back, and that's where the soldering comes in. But I thought Haze Watch would be a good project for me, because there's already a reference implementation. Swimming has proven that it's already working. So it's for me I wanted to have a separate implementation where I can attempt to do the same thing, but from a completely different approach, which is from the Raspberry Pi. Right now, I'm prototyping the Raspberry Pi with sensors, same sensor as the reference implementation, but this time using a full-blown operating system on the Pi. Uh, right now it's a prototype. I'm not running it on the Zero yet, because
Hmm.
I still haven't been able to run it with the um, original Pi, right? And the original Pi is just a lot easier because it has more memory, more RAM, more processing power. And it's interesting. I've learned a lot during the journey about UART, I2C, all these little protocols. Whereas before, I only remember like TCP, IP, HTTP protocols um, as the ones that I'm using. But now I realize the the normal circuits that we've been like electronics that we're using are actually operating on a much lower level protocol that, and
Uh-huh.
it's a very very fast protocol, right? And it's like now I get to actually work with these signals, so it's quite an eye-opening experience as well. Of course,
Yeah.
it's not the same
It
safety as well as software, because if your software has bugs, then you just reset the thing, right? But
Yep.
if you make a mistake with a 5-volt ground in GPIO, and you make a mistake on putting it in the breadboard, then you fry a
A
hundred ringgit
200
system
device
if you're
there.
well,
Yeah.
hopefully not the Honeywell, but
Yes.
you probably fry the Raspberry Pi. I haven't I haven't been able to fry a Pi. I probably fried the breakout board. I'm not sure how, because hopefully I'm trying it out later. So uh, I I took the the 8 pin. I don't know what you call that cable, the 8 pin cable, and
Yeah.
I think I showed a picture on the DevKami Slack channel, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
I just put like pins on the correct pins and then put it on the breadboard, and it looks like the Honeywell is working. I put the 5 volt in the ground from the Pi and the 3 volts TXRX in their correct places, and it looks like the
Mhm.
sensor is giving out information. So it looks like the sensor itself is still alive. It's just the breakout board that's
Yeah.
not working well.
I have doubt, but you may be right because, believe it or not, on hardware device they have bad documentation problem as us. But that being said, I think it's worth investigating. I gut feeling tells me there's a lot more going
Mm-hmm.
on. But I think software developers should take the opportunity to work on hardware project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there is more reason where software people can contribute now. For example, let's say you want to build a self-driving car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prototype. I think you can yeah while Amazon had their racing races within there's a community one called what's the name of the thing called it's called DIY Robo Cars. Their style deployment is a Raspberry Pi with camera and all that. Maybe one of the Intel devices, but either way, you can't really run away from for that. You can't run away from some hardware because uh, for DIY robot cars, they also encourage hardware innovation. So to do a race, you really need to. Some people would use their hardware knowledge to make it faster than the design. For example, so
Yeah.
that those are one example where hardware works,
No, and it's
and
not
also
just about hardware, really. So I remember when looking at the what's that form? Type form? Was it type form? The one that has a lot of surveys, um,
yeah,
like the survey system thing, right? And when I looked at
yeah,
their site, they said they're not a survey platform, but they're a data platform,
yep,
and it's about get ingesting the ingress of data, right? And the problem with just doing web or software development is that your input is mostly keyboard and people just putting stuff in, and
yes,
that's just one data source. Whereas
yes,
with these sensors, with the hardware, right, like what you're talking about, like self-driving cars,
yeah,
cameras, etc., you're opening up your software, your application, to
yep,
multiple types of input, and that makes the application so much powerful, because
yes,
now you have a lot of information coming in. You can make better decisions instead of just having someone fill in a form and
yep,
having that information even filtered by the person who's typing in the form, because they don't always like put
yes.
in the raw information. So that I think that is where the power is, and being able to control and being able to use hardware to your advantage as an input to your program is, I think, the next level of software development.
Actually, there's a term for that. It's called IoT. But yes, you're
Mm.
precisely right. So IoT is one of those thing they talk about lah. Same line of thinking as you. Seriously.
Yeah, but it's just that if you say Internet of Things, it's like, oh, devices that are connected to each other, and you have a thermostat, and you say you
Yeah,
clap your hands and the lights go down. It's like it's so, what? It's so commercial.
correct. It's
Whereas,
buzzword field.
yeah, and the meaning behind it is the one that's actually that should be pushed forward. It's about getting more information into your application so that that application can do something. It
Correct.
just clapping is not about the clap, or like
No.
because you watched uh, I forgot that genie show in the 80s. I Love Genie, for example, where you
Yep.
do a clap, or you do your mouth wiggle, and then something happens in your house. It's about being able to do facial recognition and do something in response to that, or being able to listen to sounds and being and having your application respond to that particular event. That is
Yeah.
what's powerful about it.
Correct. And also bring you to some real world thing that we always take for granted. Uh, so on a software level, then we need to think about reliability. Some machine is faster than another. We never thought about that nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even let's say you build a data collection platform on your phone, then you realize that not all not all phone have the same classes of capability, correct?
Yeah.
Building hardware project is one way for you to discover this kind of thinking.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of those things to that's one of those value you need to force your way out to do things. I have another. I recommend you a book. It's called Messy.
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 Messy
Yeah,
as in a
Mess.
messy table.
Messy by the. He's the author of Freakonomics.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
No, no. He's the author of Undercover Economies.
Okay, yeah, that's a different person.
Uh, 50 things that make
Tim Harford.
a local economy.
Tim
Yeah.
Harford.
Tim Harford, correct. He wrote a book called Messy. So one of the story in Messi is like this. Brian Eno, the musician, when he consult with band, so one of the things that they do is to assign the wrong instrument to the wrong people. So for example, he forced the guitarist to play piano, he forced the piano player to play bass, etc.
But
In that
there's a difference between disorganized and messy though.
Correct. So the reason is the result will be messy, but it gives insight to each of the band member to think about what they can or cannot do. Doing hardware project like this give us avenue to do things that we do not know how to do. The same way that the bassist cannot play piano and vice versa. Uh,
Well,
Mm-hmm.
the closest I want to say the closest you have if you don't want to touch hardware is to move towards the bare metal like networking and CPU
yes.
architecture and stuff. Right?
If you're front end developer, set up at home. If you're backend developer, learn
Yeah,
JavaScript,
it
do
changes your
CSS.
perspective,
Yeah.
and I think that's generally the reason why I also wanted to do these things, is because I just wanted how you would do things. Like this is already giving me a lot of ideas with my own software development, right? Like there is, for example, the the interface that, like, just looking at the USB interface, like I can plug so many things into the Pi, but because they are all the same interface, the USB micro USB interface,
Yep,
they all can talk to each other. I don't have to solder connections over and over. And then this is similar to how if you write tightly coupled code, it
yep.
might be easy to do in at that point. But then now when you have to replace it and do like changes, you have to desolder the thing, and then you have to do a lot of things. So it's already giving me a lot of insights and a lot of good analogies as to how I should structure things. So it gives a different
Hmm.
perspective. Yeah.
Correct.
Sorry.
I,
I
uh,
think Chilyong also has a project.
No, I do a project.
yes, Sheila had a
Just
project.
fix my own home network. Tips and tricks is if you have issues running like your graphics driver on your Linux computer, try to the cause is probably secure boot. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
a
wasted
secure
a
boot is one
lot
of the
of
biggest
time.
thing.
Yeah, a lot of configuration.
Secure boot is the Windows thing, right?
Yep.
No, it's a part of the BIOS.
Uh, so secure boot is an initiative by Microsoft to make computer more secure because there is now nowadays it's actually possible for you to have virus malware that actually at your BIOS level. And nowadays your computer is so powerful, your BIOS can literally be their own operating system. It's not just a
The one
simple
dangerous
BIOS
part
thing
is
anymore.
that it can be overwritten on your system level at the user
Correct.
part. So if you, I mean, if you are pretty generous in giving up permissions or access, yeah, you might be susceptible to some of this attacks. But
Oh, that's from my friend.
yeah, the good news is that is I think it's still pretty much targeted or POC. No, not much of this kind of stuff
Correct.
wow yet.
So the whole point of having UFI is so that you can there's no way to compromise your system on that level. It make it a lot harder, which is why on a PC you need to sign different operating system. Your Linux kernel need to be signed and all that. So we there's a conspiracy those days that Microsoft way to prevent Linux from being booted on the computer. And they are not wrong, but in the end of the day, they implement it and sign the kernel for, sign the operating system for major distribution.
But isn't it a bit less secure now? Because before the BIOS is actually run by a chip inside the computer, but now UEFI, you actually have a program, a
Yeah,
UEFI program that
yeah,
runs
Yep,
after the BIOS initializes. And so,
yeah,
if that
bypass.
UEFI program gets corrupted somehow, or like some malware latches
yeah,
onto it, then
Yep,
it's less secure.
yep.
yeah,
Or is
And
that
let's
why there's secure boot so that you sign the UEFI binaries?
yeah.
Oh.
So it's, believe it or not, the Apple computer will have something similar, but they have one more hardware to actually make it even more secure.
yeah, but you can actually turn them off if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah. On the PC, you can turn it off. On the Mac, you need to try
That's
a
how
lot
I
harder.
that's how I remove certain system file from the Mac.
Yeah. Mm.
So, Chilion, how was your project with the network then?
Networking is basically I try to optimize the complaint is um wasted a lot of money on Wi-Fi dongle that doesn't work on Linux.
Uh-huh.
And the point is that certain chip, even though there are drivers, but it's not actually because of legal issues. They are not merged into the kernel, so every single time I have to compile them myself. Even though there is a DKMS, but the Linux kernel been underwent I think several major changes that broke compatibility. So a few times I actually need to make sure that the config and stuff will compile with
Mhm.
the newer version of the Linux kernel. Yeah.
But why do you have to, like, because you bought different Wi-Fi dongles? Is that the reason why you have a
The
problem?
ones that support 5G
Ah.
are normally working on Linux. So
Right,
I ended up getting a power line extender and plug in wire Ethernet cable, so it works fine.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those thing on Linux, you don't always get the best hardware
Yes.
support.
I have a lot of videos files that so I just got a NAS early this year and the transfer speed is pretty bad because my room between my room there's a lot of electronic devices that do not access the internet.
Mhm.
So Wi-Fi doesn't really get into my room that well. So at least the power lines in a way solve it.
Mm.
Not that fast, but it's still gigabit. But it's capped at gigabit.
Oh,
Okay. So not a lot of learnings, I guess, on your end, or
My part is a bit this is a bit busy side. on my part. I get home pretty late sometimes.
I see.
I like
Okay,
to
so
loiter around sometimes as well. So
not a lot of after work for you.
yeah, my afterwards, I spend a lot of time going like stopping by certain places. Like if the traffic is really bad, I actually don't just wait in traffic. I normally go loiter somewhere. So yeah, I spend a lot of time outdoor, like doing nothing, just looking at things.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, let's take a look at the chat then. Then you have
we have Nicholas.
yeah, Nicholas say, "Oh, Bewitched. It is Bewitched."
Yeah.
Probably. I think so. Why do I keep remembering I Love Genie?
No,
For
no, no,
what
no, no.
reason?
I dream of Genie.
I Dream of Genie.
Oh,
Okay, that's it.
okay. And
Yeah.
Nasu say they used to have a project called Haze Watch app.
Okay, we need to change it to Jerobot now.
Mm.
It's
You don't
actually
want Awanku. I think Awanku is okay.
Awanku. Awanku seems to be like if you are
My
into the cloud
cloud.
business, because yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Haze is a
Yeah.
cloud or something, right?
So
Yeah.
I actually also got makan.dev, so I'm gonna probably just put it into the because you guys actually give you guys the access to Cloudflare, so I choose to put it there, so probably you can host your query or something there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe our value value.
I've been always wanting to write a system for
Okay.
certain things like the meetup ping and stuff. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I have more time.
So what else we have on?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
We
Oh yeah.
have Deep Razor.
So
Deep
Najro was
Razor.
reminding us the deep learning thing by AWS. The
Mm-hmm.
deep is Deep Racer,
Yeah,
and we should really rename our topic called "Fry the Pie,"
fry the
Fry a
pie.
pie.
Okay.
according to Nicholas. But okay,
Okay, I'm
sure.
gonna rename it. It's gonna call fry the pie.
Fry a pie. Yeah,
Yeah.
fry a pie.
All right. I think that's all we have for now.
Yeah.
Anything?
No, I don't. I think this is good.
When are we interviewing Hussein?
I don't know. He didn't respond to my message. I thought, I thought he knows already. Like when we
But we're
talk
gonna
about
let him again.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happens.
I hope. Meanwhile, we need to find. We will try to queue more interview. Throughout. Which means within a week we need to ask more things.
Yeah.
Also, here's a
Mm-hmm.
question. Do you think we had some public holiday after next week? Hmm.
No, I don't have probably after next week.
Okay.
I want to rest.
Yeah, I think we just sleep. All right.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's all there.
that
I'm gonna
is
sleep.
it.
Yeah.
And we
Right.
will see you all again next week.
Yeah.
Yep. So next week, same time